Is Stranger Things appropriate for a 12-year-old?
I'd say so.
Man, I couldn't even watch, like, Men in Black.
The Stranger Things cast have been through a lot of good and bad times since 2016, and with all the hype the Netflix series has throughout the years, it's safe to say that the kids and the rest of the cast are no stranger to interviews. So join us in today's videos as we live some of the funniest moments during interviews with the Stranger Things cast. Stick around because you will not want to miss these. But before that, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. Starting off this list is the series of interviews with famous host Jimmy Fallon. The kids of Stranger Things admit that going on the late night show is always a memorable experience, even just for the laughs. But did you know that they got their first interview in the same year Stranger Things was first released? Jimmy got first dibs with interviewing the rising stars Millie Bobby Brown, Finn Wolfhard, Gaten Matarazzo, and Caleb McLaughlin. One of the funniest things they did during their appearance was a segment called Stranger Strings. Before the show started, Fallon asked the kids to write down facts about themselves, and during the game, the kids took turns reading these facts and guessing who among them wrote the facts down by spraying silly string onto the person. Naturally, it was a hit. Tensions rose, but so did the laughs when Fallon asked Millie and Finn to rehash their kissing scene. Next is when a year later the boys of Stranger Things returned to Fallon, and this time Noah Schnapp was able to tag along. If you think the all-boys conversation centered on stuff like girls, games, and other manly stuff, boy, you'd be surprised. Believe it or not, they actually spent most of that episode talking about High School Musical. Finn narrated the story of how he was once invited by Caleb and Gaten to come over and watch horror movies. Being the biggest horror nut of the bunch, Finn could not resist such an offer. So imagine his surprise when he walked in and the rest of the boys were watching and singing along to Troy and Gabriella. While Caleb seemed embarrassed over the story, Gaten proudly proclaimed that he had acquired a liking for the show since he grew up with a sister who was obsessed with it. He even sampled a line from one of the songs in the musical. Next is when Millie Bobby Brown returned to the show by herself and gave Fallon his request for a rap performance. But she didn't just perform a rap verse from Drake or Eminem. In fact, she performed an original piece that summarized the entire season 1 of Stranger Things. It was equal parts hilarious and total genius. Next is just last year. The Stranger Kids returned to the show for a round of Search Party and more. Okay, the game show segment is not technically an interview, but it was filled with moments of golden comedy that we just couldn't leave off the list. The game mechanics were simple. The host provided a phrase, and the cast members, along with Jimmy Fallon, had to guess a word that best fills in the blank. For example, the phrase that Finn and Jimmy had to complete was this: why did the 80s have the worst blank? Finn said clothes, and Jimmy said hair. Both answers were correct, but Finn got so offended when the word music actually turned out to be correct too. As a fan of all things 80s, Finn was insulted by the insinuation that music from that era wasn't good. Another phrase they had to complete was, should I get a new blank? Possibly the funniest suggested answer was the one Millie gave. She started to say, should I get a new boyfriend, but stopped herself before she could say it too loud. It was a total chaotic riot. It's a surprise we didn't need subtitles just to understand what was going on. Okay, so there's still other times during interviews that the Stranger Things cast got the case of the laughs. One time was during the Comic-Con interviews 2 years ago. The kids were asked to narrate some of their funniest sleepover stories, and they happily told the story of Gaten's vegetarian phase, where the rest of the kids would spend hours trying to convince him to just eat meat if he's hungry, and he would just reply that he can't because he promised himself he wouldn't. It was so precious and funny that even Gaten couldn't believe he went through that phase. But the funniest revelation from that interview was that the cast has never gone on a huge sleepover, because not one of their parents have agreed to host all of them at the same time. When Millie said, "I wonder why," in a very sarcastic manner, all we could say was, yeah, makes sense. Next is that we know these kids are total goofballs, right? Especially on the red carpet where everyone else is prim and proper. At the 68th Emmy Awards, this red carpet interviewer from E! News made the mistake of asking Gaten Matarazzo what the inspiration for his outfit was. I mean, he's just a little kid. It's highly unlikely that he even chose his own outfit for that event. So you know what they say, you ask dumb questions, you get dumb answers. So while stifling a laugh, Gaten said he didn't know the inspiration for his outfit because he just went into this rental place and picked out a tux. That's gotta be one of the funniest and most genuine answers any red carpet reporter has ever received, and definitely it made us laugh. Another funny interview Gaten had was with Jimmy Kimmel, who started asking the young kid about money matters. So Jimmy asked Gatton if he asked Netflix for a raise when the show was picked up for a second season. Gatton answered with a loud no. So Kimmel asked if he got a raise anyway. Gatton said he didn't know. The audience was practically needing stitches at this point. It's funny because it's obvious that Gatton doesn't even have money on his mind. He just loves acting, and that's all. Jimmy Kimmel was so puzzled that Gatton doesn't even seem to know how rich he is right now. So he asked the young kid what he does if he needs money. Gatton said it's simple. He just goes up to his mom and says, "Hey mom, can I get a skateboard?" And she says yes or no. Another moment where a cast member seemed so bewildered about the level of fame he currently had would be Caleb. In an interview with Ellen, Caleb narrated one of the creepiest and most shocking interactions he's ever had with a fan. So, one time Caleb said a younger kid came up to him and said, "Hey, are you Caleb Reginald McLaughlin?" And he was so shocked because he thought he had successfully kept his middle name out of the public's knowledge. When Ellen informed him that people can practically look up everything about them if they wanted to, Caleb seemed really surprised. In another segment of their Ellen debut, Finn, Noah, Caleb, and Gatton played a game called One-Eyed Monster, where they were asked how many questions, like how many games do you have to win to get to the World Cup? This should be fairly easy since all the answers were between 0 and 5. Whenever they got a wrong answer, they would have to enter the mouth of the monster and pull out some of its teeth. So if the correct answer is 5, but they answered 3, they had to pull 2 teeth out of the monster corresponding to the discrepancy between their answer and the correct one. Noah was so funny in this game, since he was confident in giving out all the wrong answers. He was asked how many states started with the letter H, and without batting an eyelash, he answered 4. In another guest interview for Entertainment Weekly, the kids were asked which among their castmates had the funniest laugh. Not only did they unanimously answer Gatton, but Noah and Sadie even did amazing impressions of Gatton's laugh. That's when we realized that yes, the kid actually does sound like a hyena when he's delighted. I mean, how did we not notice this before? Then there was this time that Millie, Caleb, and Gatton showed up for a couple of BuzzFeed videos. The funniest part of these interviews were when the kids were trying out retro toys. Gatton seemed to be an expert in Furbies, Gax, and Pop Rocks, but the British teen beauty was clearly not. She thought Furby was a gremlin, and she believed that the sticky slime was disgusting, and she didn't even know what Pop Rocks are. The two boys tried teaching her how to eat it, but Millie placed too much of the sugary explosion in her mouth that it started popping vigorously, and she choked. The cast members are a little bit older now, they're no longer prone to uncontrollable fits of laughter, but that doesn't mean they lost the good old humor that we have grown to love them for. The next moment is one of the funniest ones between Gatton, Caleb, and Finn, but even their older castmates can have us rolling on the floor laughing too. For example, Dacker, Natalia, and Joe went on an episode of Young Hollywood, where they exhibited sportsmanship by participating in a game of Truth or Dare. One of the dares accepted by Joe Keery was reenacting one of his favorite scenes from the show. Naturally, he picked the basket brawl he had with Dacker, only this time it was Natalia boxing him out. Aside from the fact that Natalia obviously does not know how basketball players move when they play the game, Joe was so into it that it's so obvious how much he loved doing this scene. Their reenactment was awkward, embarrassing, and amusing for Dacker, who was just sitting there witnessing his scene get butchered by Natalia. Next up, in an interview over at SiriusXM in 2017, Millie and Gatton got into a spirited debate about who between their Stranger Things characters had the worst year ever. Dustin lost his cat and was very constipated apparently, but Eleven, she just lost the love of her life. It was a tough year all around in the Upside Down. But they are both convinced they had the worst year ever. It was funny because the scene quickly turned to a game of would you rather, as in would you rather lose the one you truly love or be constipated all year long. Strange game, but it made us laugh. Lastly, this one is more fun than funny. Did you know that the Stranger kids have actually gone on carpool karaoke? Bet you don't even remember that they had any sort of interaction with James Corden, right? That's because they didn't. They simply went carpooling with Caleb as the driver. They played this fun game called Mind Meld, where the two of them would have to wear a silly headpiece that's supposed to synchronize their minds so they would think of the same things. It shocked people to no end how the kids actually ended up saying the same things at the same time. It's really, really hilarious. Although we're still waiting for their interview with James Corden to air, as we're sure that interview would also have us falling off of our seats in laughter. So as you can see, these are some of the funniest and most interesting interviews that the Stranger Things cast has done. Thanks for watching the video. A simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple.